Thirsty Thursday at Run Pure Sports. What a fantastic sports night. We get a 3-game NBA slate with a ton of injuries on teams that are going to condense their productivity. So that's fun for us. We've got the Miami Heat on the slate. Jimmy Butler is playing. That's not as much fun for us. But we also have a showdown game, which is the Rams and the 49ers. And that, I think, is going to be a lot of fun for us as we head into the last weekend before when everybody takes off for Christmas and New Year's. I'm joined by DC. I'm not joined by Mangone. And I'm not even going to tell you where he is. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not even going to joke because DC, I don't even want to talk about it. But it's a 3-game slate. Beanair is already here dropping nuggets saying that Jalen Duren has been ruled out. And that is probably fun for us, Beanair. That is fun for us. And you may have to go in timeout for being a sarcastic bitch as we begin the program, DC. 3 games, NBA. The Cup has been fun. Last night was a little bit of fun, except the Warriors weren't fun, as usual. I guess maybe they were. Buddy Hield got there. Jonathan Kuminga was fine. I saw you up top there early, but the Knicks did not win. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. If the Knicks win that game, then I think the lineups that you had are likely to get there.
Yes.
And just Trae Young once again in the Garden. The Knicks are becoming his daddy, and now he'll get to play the Bucks in the Cup in Vegas. But how are you doing? What's going on?
Things are good. Last night I advocated on this show for playing like 5 or 6 Knicks in a single lineup, which I did. And at halftime of that first game, it looked good. As you said, I think I was first in the flagship for a while, or first or second place, way up there. Even made the grave error, JT, of messaging, my show partner, show co-host yesterday, AP, saying, I'm second in the flagship at the moment. And then the Knicks come out in the second half and the truth is they just couldn't make a shot. They couldn't make a 3-pointer. So it was all these chances that they had, and it just didn't go in, and they lost the game. They're supposed to, or favored by 8, lose by 10. It is what it is. I do think, like you said, if the game had, if they had scored if they had won by 8 instead of losing by whatever it was, I think those lineups would have been up there, like you said.
You had a shot. You definitely had a shot. You've also got the reverse thing going on with AP that I have. You sent the message to AP. AP will usually send me a message no matter what sport it is. Let's say the game or the slate is 2/3 of the way over, and he'll be like, take this down. And I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about because I'm not looking. And then an hour later, he's like, sorry, bro. I didn't mean to jinx your game. And I'm like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
But love our guy, AP.
I'm not one of those. I think like Big T, he doesn't even look where he is in the standings till the end of the night. I'm not that way. I want to know for the most part kind of where I am. But
it depends how many lineups I'm playing. If I'm playing a bunch of lineups, I'm kind of I know how I'm doing based on what my exposure is and stuff. And I'll usually always wait. Last night I only played 5. I hate the 2 gamers in the NBA just because there's some volatility there. But I played 5 lineups just because I wanted to play. I knew I was going to watch the games, and I was not as much disappointed in my lineups as because you had to fade Brunson, which was a hard thing to do on that 2-game slate, and you couldn't really play Trae over him. Campaign, who was in at least that good lineup that you had running up there at the top.
He had a chance too. He had several threes that they just didn't go in.
He was a guy who was in the optimal for the slate, right? The 3-man split in the flagship. Beanair did take some money down last night. I think he he had
a nice night. Very nice.
He had a nice night. He's talking to himself in here. So that's good. That's good. Emperor KJ, we're gonna get to the place here. Go ahead, DC.
Beanair wants his credit. I understand. He wants a shout out on the show. He looks up to us. So Beanair, congratulations on the. I don't know if he won anything, but he had that 20 max. He ended up with more than 2K, so he had to either split first, or come in second. He had to do something like that. So good job, Beanair. Let's run it back tonight on this 3-game slate.
Guys, as usual, if you have an emperor, like I said, we will get to that question. My initial read is it's obviously Herbert Jones that is on paper a better play than Keegan Murray. Obviously, you'd be a little bit contrarian with the play of Keegan Murray. And we'll talk about why that is specifically, because this slate is going to be all about the Celtics and how you deploy the Celtics, how many of those you have in your lineup. We do have news. I do think the Jalen Duren news is somewhat important just because you've got Isaiah Stewart there at 3,600 if he doesn't play. So I do think that is something that we need to look into as we get closer to lock. Beanair did tie for first, so congrats on that, Beanair. But we'll get into these games and work through this game by game as we usually do. Like I said, if you have questions, even if you got showdown questions, DC, we'll talk about showdown a little bit at the end when we get through the NBA. I know you've had some shows today already. The content is, but I do think it's an interesting slate, DC. It's a slate that I think you are going to want to hedge a little bit here with the situation with Isaac Garendo and what we know about Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers and how they are reluctant to share detailed information with the media. And so I think that's something that we'll talk through here at the end after we get through with going through the NBA slate. Don Yeezy is here. Beefy Slayer or Buffy Slayer, JT. Big Anthony was chirping today. Big Anthony, by the way, very disappointed, DC.
Large Anthony. It's Large Anthony.
Large Anthony. He posted this clip, and it's a working man who was at the top of a tower, and Big T's apparently scared of heights, which is disappointing, a little bit disappointing, but said that, there wasn't enough money in the world. But we will bring the fire to him on Monday, although it's going to be a 1 or 2 situation. He was kind of right on. Go ahead.
You're disappointed in Big T for being scared of heights. That disappoints you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, there's certain times where I'm not excited about, going over those massive bridges, especially after the one in Baltimore came crashing down. I've been a little bit more nervous about the infrastructure of this crumbling country, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, it did disappoint me that he was insistent on sharing his vulnerability with the Twitterverse, the Xverse, if you will.
Yeah.
And it knocked him down. It knocked him down a few prongs in my rankings. So, but we'll talk about that. All right, let's get into this. First game, DC, 7:30 Eastern. Detroit heads into Boston. Sam Hauser and Jason Tatum have been ruled out. Obviously, Tatum being ruled out is a big, big loss in terms of productivity, in terms of target share, shot share, the usage on the court. For Detroit, the news here that we want to monitor is that Jalen Duren is questionable. They do get Asar Thompson back. Wendell Moore is going to play. Al Horford is also going to play here for the Celtics. And the one thing when I started looking at Sims and projections is Jrue Holiday has been a guy that this season has been tough for me to get right. I've been underweight on his, projection in terms of ownership most of the time. Now he's cheaper though than Peyton Pritchard. And in the Sims, he shows that he's much more likely to be in the optimal than Peyton Pritchard is. That's just on paper, DC. Pritchard, of course, in that second unit. I don't think he's starting here tonight, but in that second unit against Detroit, I think you may say that Peyton Pritchard has a better chance in terms of usage than Jrue Holiday does. He's $400 more than Jrue. What are your thoughts here on the Celtics? This game environment overall, we know last week the winner was a bunch of Celtics and Cade Cunningham. Is that something you brought up in Discord? Is that something that you see yourself doing again tonight?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get to Cade. I didn't on that slate either. But, I mean, you mentioned the biggest thing is we just saw this game and this same slate 8 days ago. Back on December 4th, these two teams played. Was Tatum out that game too? I can't remember the exact situation.
Tatum was out. Hauser was in, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And yeah, I was on the show. I don't know, can't remember if it was free or a premium show, but I was like, I think you can play 5-6 Celtics here. And I believe the actual optimal had 6 Celtics on it. And now Boston is one more player shy. This is not a team that goes deeper into their rotation. They're going to play like 8 guys, probably maximum here. And I know, I said the same thing about the Knicks yesterday, and maybe some people are saying, yeah, it didn't work out. Like, if you are watching the game, you could. We already talked about it. This isn't like sour grapes. I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, but clearly the Knicks onslaught had a pretty good chance to win that slate. It just didn't go that way in that one simulation, right? Totally fine.
Yep.
I think it's the same thing with the Celtics here. I think you load the boat on these guys. And you just see it when you watch. If you watch the game, a good team like the Celtics, they're playing a team that they're quite a bit better than in Detroit. You'll just see a lot of, if the Celtics are playing well, strings of possessions where all of your guys are getting fantasy points, right? It's a block, a rebound, an outlet pass, an assist to a three-pointer for the team that launches all these threes. You can get like 10 fantasy points in 30 seconds. If the team plays well, and if they play well, they're all going to play the minutes, right? Like these minutes aren't really going anywhere outside of just a blowout game, whatever. Sometimes random shit happens, but in the majority of the runouts, JT, I think we get at least 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 Celtics home. And of course, it obviously depends on what happens in the other games, right? If Sabonis nukes for 70, of course you're going to have him. So it's not, it's not a foolproof key to automatically winning. But to me, a kind of a clear path of least resistance here is to play, I think at least 4, all my 3 teams. I'm playing 3 teams like I have been doing. All 3 of them will have at least 4. And I'm going to push it, I think, a little bit tonight and maybe play 5 or perhaps 6 on some as well.
4, 5, or 6 Celtics. I looked at this, and when you look at sim projections, the 6 Celtics, right? 6 of those Celtics project better than almost any of the other plays. There's obviously a couple of Pelicans in there. I think the way I'm going to handle it is I'm going to run it a couple of times. I'm going to say I've got to have 3 of those top 6 Celtics in every lineup. See what happens with that. See how many 4 and 5 man Celtic lineups I get. The difference here too, this is only a 3-game slate, and you've got some pretty big rotations. Miami's got a pretty big rotation. The Sacramento Kings have had a shorter rotation of late, but really there's the Celtics and then the Pelicans, which we'll talk about. Detroit, a lot of bodies healthy here. Again, we are waiting on news about Jalen Duren. That would change my opinion as to whether or not I might want anyone other than potentially Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
From the Pistons, DC. Anyone else on the Pistons here that you see that you could get excited about in any way? I mean, Jason Tatum is a big loss, but I don't think with Horford, Porzingis, Brown, you're not really ceding as much defensively, right? It's not like there's this huge hole from a standpoint that's going to allow the Pistons to be in this game for any other reason other than they hit their shots.
Yeah, 100%. I think you nailed it there. And like the Celtics, yes, Jason Tatum is their best player. No question about it. But they do absolutely do not need Tatum to play well as a team, right? Like you take him out of there. This is a team of excellent basketball players that all know how to play together without Tatum. It's just not, it doesn't really, as good as Tatum is, you still expect Boston to kind of do the same thing. So I didn't play Cade last time, and as we talked about, the same game happened essentially 8 days ago. I didn't play Cade then, and I'm not going to play him here either. And it's not that I don't like him. It's just I can't quite fit him in with the builds that I want to go with, and I'm not willing to really sacrifice one of the Celtics guys to get him in, which would be what it is. So I do think that all the Celtics guys can get there. And listen, Cade is probably going to have a pretty good game to keep the the Celtics in it, right? You don't want them Celtics to run away too hard. But at his price tag, he could put up 45 or 50 and not be on the winner. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with Cade. I do think he's a good play. You know, if I had more lineups, I would absolutely have Cade. He's the one I would want with Detroit. But I think my lineups are finalized right now. He didn't end up on any of my three, and either did any other Pistons.
Jace HD says Tobias night. Someone in Discord was talking about Tobias Harris. He seems a little cheap at 5,900, but again, there are so many bodies on this Pistons team. Hey, why can't they find a coach that wants to run a tight rotation? It seems like it's been years since we could rely on anything from.
Seems like maybe it's a lot. You know, maybe they don't have the talent to do it, but like the teams that run a tight rotation seem to play way better. I just develop more chemistry. How did you rank the Celtics? We didn't really, we talked about load. I almost don't care that much because I'm just playing them all.
Right. Well, so how I'm going to do it is I want 3 of the top 6: Brown, Holiday, Porzingis, White, Pritchard, and Horford. I want 3 of those guys on every team, and I think Jaylen Brown has to be at the top, right? I think Jaylen Brown is a guy that you want. I think with the issues inside for the Pistons, especially if Durant is out, I'm not that he's any fantastic defender, but it just makes it easier if you're going against Stewart, Harris, some of these other guys that the Pistons are going to roll out. Yeah. It seems like Porzingis should have a pretty easy time. It seems like even Al Horford at 40.
That's what I'm saying. They're all going to have an easy time.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of who gets the ceiling. And I'm not 100% sure. That's what I mean. The biggest decision for me, and I'll ask you this, what you're doing, is Pritchard or Holiday. Which one of those do I want more in my lineup? My lean right now is based on the way that you could see this game playing out. Even if it's close, Giroux is competing with Jalen, Porzingis, Derek White, and Pritchard is not competing with those guys on the second unit. Some of them, there'll be some staggering, no doubt, but I think it's more wide open for Pritchard to get there, even at the elevated price point.
I agree with you. Drew is my least favorite of the 6 by a decent margin. Well, I say a decent margin. It's still close, but that's that's the way I lean. If I got to leave one off, it is Drew. Pritchard is just the hungrier player at this point, right? Drew is like the veteran. Drew's not going out there like, I'm going to go take over this game. That's never really something but Pritchard, on the other hand, right, he gets out there with the second unit, and if it's going his way, we've seen it. He'll just keep bombing away, attacking the basket, all that stuff. So I'm with you. Pritchard over Drew if you're choosing between the two. Jaylen Brown is 1 for me. I really like Horford here and Porzingis. I mean, those guys I think, have strong games. Can you play both Drew and Pritchard? I think you can. They're not that expensive for one, right? The slate's not that big, so 30 fantasy points from a $500 or $5,400 player could be enough on this slate. Not for sure, but it could be. So you don't necessarily need the ceiling game. And then they're both going to get the minutes if it's a close game, right? There's no question about that. They're both going to get 30-plus minutes, or maybe a little bit less for Pritchard, but probably 30-plus minutes. So, yeah, I do think you can play both together.
All right. Go ahead, like I said, shoot any questions in here. We'll get on to the next game, DC. Toronto at Miami. Miami a 10-point favorite, 224.5 total. Jimmy Butler is going to play tonight, which will be interesting given what's been going on with him this week.
Yeah.
Kyle Larson for Miami is out. Josh Richardson is out. Bruce Brown and, of course, Scotty Barnes for the Raptors going to be out. Let's start on the Miami side. I think, this has been a really good matchup Toronto has for opposing centers. I think as a spend up, I'm fine with Bam Adebayo landing in a couple of my lineups, taking some shots on him being a guy that can get 60. Even at this price point, 7,400 for Jimmy Butler, it's concerning. This is a guy who lacks motivation generally, and I think there's a lot less right now. What are your thoughts here on any of these Miami Heat players?
Well, let's start with Jimmy Butler, because I think that is the biggest question mark in this game in general. For those who missed it, honestly, I'm not even that up to date on the story, but some feud between the Heat and Jimmy Butler where he's maybe not happy there, or, kind of, listen, he's left at least a couple, I think all three teams he's left kind of on bad terms to some extent, the Bulls, the Wolves, and then the Sixers. And maybe that time is coming in Miami. Is that kind of what's going on? Is that your understanding?
There's some rumors out there that he's told the Heat that he wants out, that he wants to be traded. Okay. The agent has pushed back on it, but the agent's also trying to make Butler marketable to other teams because, like you said, this has happened repeatedly here, and allegedly, according to NBA reporters, he's open to going to the Suns, to the Mavericks. I think there's a handful of teams where contending teams where he said, "I'd rather be here."
So my just straight up intuition, given that information, would be that Jimmy Butler would be motivated to prove his worth. I think playing well gets him his trade because it gets the Heat more assets back in the trade, right? If Jimmy Butler's going off, if he proves that he's still got it in him to be a leader. And so the question, I think, is which Jimmy Butler do we see? Because he's JT, maybe the most, turn it on, turn it off player in the league, where we've been doing these shows for years. Yeah. Early on in the season, we're always like, this is not the time of the year to play Jimmy Butler in DFS. You get to the playoffs, and now he's putting up 50+ every night. Right. I don't know which Butler we'll see, but if it's the good version, do you remember? I think it might have been. It was against the Lakers, the same day as as that Boston Detroit game that we just talked about. The Heat played the Lakers. I believe that was a NBA Cup game. The Heat ended up blowing the Lakers out, so Butler only played 29 minutes, but he had 37 fantasy points, something like that, at halftime. Clearly motivated. Mm-hmm. You have
another situation here. Even though the game is in Toronto, Miami 10-point favorites. Toronto was bad with Scotty Barnes. Now there is no Scotty Barnes, so it's still a situation where even if he's motivated, maybe you get 2.5 quarters.
Could happen, yeah. I think he didn't end up on my three teams. I'm looking at maybe playing him on FanDuel. I just think the upside is high, right? At 7,500, if he does, if he is motivated, I mean, he should have a big game against this Toronto team, right? I don't really see them slowing him down much. So I do think he's an interesting tournament play. Do we know ownership on Butler?
About 30% on him. About 26, 27 on Bam Adebayo. I think personally, I'd set a rule. I want only one of those guys.
Yeah.
In any single lineup. At least that's the way I'm approaching that.
I like that rule quite a bit. Yep.
On the Toronto side, DC, man, it is ugly here because of the injury to Barnes. You've got Pirtle, who's priced up now at 7,500 in a matchup that really hasn't been very good ever for opposing centers. RJ Barrett is all the way up to 8,800. All right, there'll be a little bit more usage for RJ Barrett. And then you've got just a bunch of guys, right? I mean, Mogbo, Davion Mitchell, Grady Dick, Ochai, Agbaji, Jacoby Walter.
Yeah.
Given the value that we have, I don't know that there's a reason to try and take chances on the Raptors' value here on the slate.
I'm a little worried the Raptors just get clamped down in this game. Going into Miami, they're clearly kind of outmanned on the talent, just comparing the talent between the two teams. I do think if you're playing Raptors, I think I would play maybe their main guys, you play them together, right? Like Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Pirtle, play them on the same team because those guys have to play well to push this game, to get their minutes. And if they do, I think they all get the 35+ minutes. So I didn't end up on too many Raptors, but I would rank them. Barrett, I think, has huge upside still. I'm just worried about the bust potential. Pirtle 2, and then Grady Dick 3. Probably Davion Mitchell would be the fourth guy I might consider on Toronto.
I can't myself play Jacob Pirtle at 7,500.
I'm not doing it either.
yeah. It's just not something I'm interested in.
No. I get it.
Bursty asks, any way we could see how to set these rules? It really depends on your optimizer. The way I'm doing it is using groups. So in my first group, which will be the Celtics, I want 3 of those guys in every lineup. The other group I talked about, which is I want a maximum of Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo in any single lineup. So 2 different rules so far that we've mentioned. That's how I'm doing it. Depends on your optimizer. You could do that. You could do that in Sabre. You could do that in most other optimizers as well. DC, we'll get to the last game. Sacramento heads into New Orleans. This is an 8 o'clock Eastern start. Sacramento favored by 7, 231.5 total. And New Orleans, the team that is injured here, Jose Alvarado, Javonte Green, Jordan Hawkins, Carlo Makovic, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl, all out for the Pelicans. Of course, they're already missing Zion Williamson. Daniel Tice will be in for them. And then for Sacramento, pretty much fully healthy, DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk back off the injury report here. Yes, Bursty, you can put it in a group in Sabre. DC, thoughts on this game? The Kings recently showing a shorter, more condensed rotation than they have in the past. That's led to Malik Monk heading into the starting lineup. He's been phenomenal. What are your thoughts on the Kings and the Pels?
Yeah, you got it right at the end there with the Kings. At least for me, it's Malik Monk is the one that I want. Been on him since he moved into the starting role for Sacramento. A move, by the way, that he just straight up forced to happen with his play. Like it got kind of like so good where it's like, hey, this guy deserves to start at this point. You know, he's just absolutely crushing it, and he's continued that to the point where it's like kind of close. Who's the lead dog on this team between Monk and Fox and Sabonis? So I'll play the cheaper one, right? And Monk is still the cheaper one, add down there at 7,300. I honestly think he's should be projected close to those guys. He's not. He's cheaper. He's the one I want. So pretty quick for me with Sacramento. Again, you know, if you're playing a ton of lineups, of course you're going to have some of these Kings mixed in. I'm not. Monk is the guy that I like on the Kings. The Pelican side, though, obviously, or at least to me, obviously, the more interesting side of this game. Like you said, Pelicans still missing a lot of players. Who's ruled out today? Robinson, Earl, and who's
you've got Robinson, Earl, Hawkins, Jose
Green,
Alvarado, Javonte Green.
So
Carlo Makovic, I don't think matters all that much.
So it looks like Yves Missi is going to be perhaps the most popular play on this slate overall, or close to it anyway. And I do like him. I'm going to check right now. What did I? Yeah, I did end up with Missi on 2 of my 3 lineups. So I am in on Missi. I worry a little bit about perhaps the minutes could end up not being as secure maybe as people think. So a little nervous about the chalk there. And then the play, go ahead.
With Tyson potentially, yeah.
Yeah. The play that I like more than Missi, though, is Herb Jones, who I think will also be heavily owned. But this, I mean, he missed a bunch of time, but has come back and played, hasn't missed a beat. He's played 32, 37, 38 minutes, averaging what? Or over 30 fantasy points per game in those 3. This up and down pace that Sacramento likes to play, perfect for Herb Jones, right? You want him out in transition.
He's athletic. He's very athletic. Not a big necessarily, but a big body compared to what's available for the rest of that team.
Contribute defensively. They're going to need him to guard. I mean, any number of Kings, right? Monk, Fox, DeRozan, all of those guys. You could put Herb Jones on, he would do a good job. So I think his minutes look really, really good to me. I could see him pushing beyond 40 minutes if things really go his way. He's playing well and they need him out there. So I love Herb Jones at 5K there. I think he might be my favorite play on the slate overall. Love the Celtics guys, obviously, but just, kind of picking off one-offs from teams.
Yep.
Love Herb Jones here.
Crew 1124. What do you think about Trey Murphy? Murphy, shooting guard, shooting forward eligible, shooting guard, small forward, excuse me. At 6,500 DC, he butts up against where you're going to be playing these Celtics, right? He's up against the Jaylen Brown potentially, up against Horford in the forward position, down in the second string. But what are your thoughts here on Trey Murphy? I've got him ranked as my third favorite of the starters.
I like him some. Like, I have no problem playing Trey Murphy if he ends up in your lineup. He's not a guy that I would change anything to get out. He's just more expensive than Herb Jones. That's mostly what it is. The $1,500 goes a long ways on this slate, in my opinion. And I think Herb Jones and Murphy should be projected very similarly. I actually feel more confident in the Herb Jones minutes. Murphy's the guy who can, get hot from three and probably has a little bit more upside, but I think Herb Jones beats Murphy a decent amount here, and the $1,500 goes a long way. So
the peripheral stats for
give me Herb over Murphy. I mean, CJ McCollum looks pretty good here too, right? He's gonna have to do a ton for this team. So really, it's the Pelicans and the Celtics. Looking at my teams now. Yeah, those are.
Do you have any more than one player from any of the other teams?
I mean, at this point, if you've been paying attention, you could know like exactly who I'm playing. But yes, Malik Monk is the only other player from any other team that I'm playing.
Okay, all right. So
there you go.
The answer is yes. Kid Catastrophe is in here. Favorite 3 Celtics. We talked through this, I think, and then we'll get to the Detroit situation, which just became a little bit more interesting. Jalen Duren ruled out. DC, your favorite 3 Celtics, I think it's going to be Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, and then Horford for you, or do you go Pritchard third?
I gotta stick with my man Pritchard. He's done me good. So, But honestly, it's so close between those guys. If you have other plays that you're on, I think it's okay to fit whichever Celtics fit any particular build, if that makes sense.
All right, fair enough. And that's what my rule is basically going to be. The only thing I'm going to look at is that Holiday versus Pritchard ownership and make sure that I am comfortable with that. We got some news. Jalen Duren has been ruled out.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to need starters here, but I suspect it's going to be Isaiah Stewart. There could be another cheap starter here, DC. I don't know that does much on this slate, right? I mean, could it allow you to get another more expensive guy with upside in it? It possibly could do that. But now you've got Isaiah Stewart as the center, and then I guess Paul Reed is the backup at 3K. Not very interesting for me anyway on this slate. What are your thoughts, DC, now that Jalen Duren has been ruled out?
I mean, I assume Stewart is going to jump to the top of the value list for projections, right?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, 3,600.
Yeah,
he's
starting center.
The only other center is Paul Reed. He's not going to play a ton, I don't think so.
So I'm, for one, disappointed because I really like my lineups, and now it's like,
right.
How the question to me is, how big of a lock is Isaiah Stewart, right? Is he fadeable? Is kind of like what I'm asking myself.
And, it's the Pistons. It's the Pistons. I can't see them going small because you've got Porzingis and you've got Horford, but it's still the Pistons. So
he gets in foul trouble a lot too. I mean,
he does. I mean, if it's a situation where he comes in at 70%, then I think you're looking at, all right, would it be better to be under the field, given the likelihood that these other players are gonna do well?
This is kind of what I'm saying. I mean, if you project him for 25,
he's going to be in every lineup.
I do think that's a somewhat fair projection, honestly. So yeah, he's by far the best value. He'll be massive chalk, obviously.
Yeah. It may be a situation where you just say you lock him in and worry about the other 7 spots. I mean, that's something you can consider.
Yeah, this is a spot where you don't want to be too tight. Like, I do really like the lineups I had, but it's like, you got, obviously it's the NBA, you got to move if it necessitates it. So I haven't made a decision on him yet. Was hoping Duren would play, obviously, but he's going on at least one of my 3, and maybe 2, I would say. I'll probably leave at least one of my lineups as is, just, I don't know. But
just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Okay. All right. Who is JT's favorite play on the DK slate? Well, I'm not going to give you one of these Celtics. Obviously, that's Boston Biggs, Stewart rebound ups. I mean, Steven, his rebound upside might be capped, but if he gets 10 points and 6 rebounds and a block or a steal, he's at 23. So it just makes it very tough without any bodies there, unless they play Tobias Harris at the 5 DC, and then that just becomes disgusting, right? To consider whether or not you want to increase your exposure to Tobias Harris based on what the Pistons might do. But it's something that they could do. Thoughts on Sasser? Honestly, I hadn't thought of him until I saw that comment. Still don't think that the Jalen Duren injury would get me interested at all about Marcus Sasser. What do you think, DC?
The only Piston I'm considering moving on is to Isaiah Stewart. I'll leave the rest of these guys alone. I'm definitely not going to Tobias Harris. I don't care what the Pistons do. Under no scenario, JT, am I clicking out some of these guys that I've liked all day for Tobias.
That's fair. That's fair. And Steven doesn't want it either. He says it might make him drink. Please don't do that, Steven. This is a public forum, and I can't encourage that. So who is you know what? I get the point about Jimmy Butler. I think if I'm going to play a contrarian play that I'm going to increase my exposure to over the field, especially with the Isaiah Stewart news now, I may increase Bam Adebayo, because even in a blowout against Pirtle and whoever else is on the Raptors, I think Adebayo could have a huge game here and be a difference maker. So I'll have more Adebayo, I think, than the field. That's the way I'm leaning now. I have to see what projections and Sims say. Pro Reactor says Paul Reed. If Paul Reed wins on this slate, DC, then I will lose. That is the way it goes, right?
If you told me he for sure was going to play all the minutes that Isaiah Stewart does not play, I would be in on Paul Reed, but I just don't. Who knows?
Yeah. Sicko. The boys are falling in love with Tobias Harris, which
listen.
You know what happens when that happens.
They're used to listening to Mangone sing the praises of Tobias Harris, but our guy Luigi is on the run. That's probably why he's not on the show, JT. He escaped.
I mean, I didn't want to comment on it, and I'm not going to. So he's just not here. Maybe he'll be back. Maybe he won't.
We'll have to do it off here. But I want the JT lowdown on the Luigi Mangone.
I don't think we're going to see Mangone this weekend, though. So I mean, so take from that what you will. Let's if you have. Beanair put a hit out on Trae Young. Love to see that. Actually, hate to see that. What am I saying? If you have any more questions about the NBA, go ahead and drop them in there. DC, would you rather have White or Pritchard at $1,300 cheaper? Jason Gordon already has 3 to 4 Celtics in his lineup. He's not sure if it's 3 or 4. He's got at least 3. He might have 4.
I'll take the savings with Pritchard, but I'm personally planning on playing both in all my lineups. So there you
go. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this game. The game that is the NFL Showdown game tonight. It is in Santa Clara. It is the Rams at the 49ers. 49ers, 2.5-point favorites. This went down a little bit, obviously, with the uncertainty in their backfield. 48.5 total DC. We've got the situation with Isaac Guerrero. He did play Sunday, left the game early, sprained foot, limited practice yesterday. this always could be a situation where Shanahan was going to play him just a little bit less anyway because of the Sunday to Thursday. But now you have the injury in there. The one thing that stood out to me are his touchdown odds and Patrick Taylor's touchdown odds are pretty close together. So I don't even think that there's consensus in the markets of what's going to happen here. I think you will see Patrick Taylor get some touches, but I think you could also see Deebo Samuel get more touches. Deebo, of course, has been pretty vocal over the course of the last week about how many targets he's getting. And then, of course, on the other side, you've got Kyren, Puka, Cooper Kupp. What are your thoughts here on this game?
So the first thing about this game, the chips are down for both of these teams. I've got NFL just to make the playoffs. A site I use, been doing some playoff best ball stuff. They've got the Rams with a 30% chance at the moment, and the Niners with an 8% chance.
The Niners are hanging by a thread.
They are hanging by a thread. If they lose this game, I believe they will be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, or very, very close to it, if not. So I think a lot of people think of the 49ers right now as like kind of already out of it, but it's not true. They are not out of it yet. And so this is it. I mean, this is essentially an elimination game for the 49ers who, listen, I know it's been, things have not gone their way. They've had all these injuries, but this is still a very talented team with a window that's like about to slam shut. So I think you'll see, and I think that's part of the reason, JT, why Shanahan's not going to give anything up on Garindo, whether he's going to play or not. It is for a running back who could get 20 to 25 touches. It is at least a little edge to make the Rams prepare for both guys. So I don't know the answer to that. I could see Garindo being 100% fine, or I could see him, we haven't gotten in. It wouldn't honestly surprise me if he was inactive. I wouldn't shock me anyway.
They should be coming here any minute.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's hard to know. I think you could, if he wasn't healthy enough to play, he wouldn't be active, right? I think we kind of know that about the NFL at this point. So
because you've got Keyshawn Vaughn behind him. Yeah. You've got some other guys that I think they would put in.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do. Obviously, Taylor would be, I think, a pretty great play if Garindo sits. If Garindo plays, I think he's solid. The play I really like from this one is George Kittle. He's my favorite captain. Big game last week. I mean, he's just straight up one of the very best players, overall players in the entire league. A must-win game for the 49ers. I think we see Kittle heavily involved here, and the upside for him is so massive, right? He catches one of those over the middle and just runs through the secondary. He can score a 60, 70-yard touchdown. So he's the guy that I like the best, George Kittle. I don't have any idea what's going on with Deebo Samuel, why they've been unable to get him going. I mean, I don't think he's not hurt. I don't really think his skill set has declined. So that's one that I just don't really understand. I don't know if you have a take on Deebo. And then, I mean, Juwan Jennings has been fantastic too. He can really play. So I think they're going to be good. You got Puka, Kupp, Kyren on the other side. This game, I think we're going to see a shootout. Honestly, I know that doesn't always happen on Thursday, but I think we're going to see points in this one.
Yeah, Deebo's rushing prop on DraftKings 16.5, 30. So they believe that he's going to get a little bit more work. But it may not be enough. I mean, Garendo's only 8,400. He gets 20 touches. He gets he's got good props, 60.5. It is minus 110 on the rushing. 1.5 receptions, minus 175. So we'll see on there. The one thing that I am looking at here is everybody's on Puka Nacua. I think Cooper Kupp's ownership is going to be significantly depressed. Cooper with a bad game by his standards last game out against the Bills. I'm going to have definitely more Cooper Kupp than the field. I'm not giving up on him. I think that we see the potential that the 49ers pay a lot more attention to Puka Nacua, and maybe that leaves Kupp available. So Kupp and Kyren would be places I'm going over the field. Puka even with or under the field on this showdown slate.
Did we get news on Davis Allen? It looks like Garendo is active.
Yorendo's active. I'm not sure if we got the now Davis Allen's snaps have been way down.
If he's out, I really like might be strong. But what's his name? The tight end for Parkinson. Parkinson, he's 1,600.
Yeah, Colby.
Yeah. I think he's the best true punt player, especially if Davis Allen is out. But even so, I think you could play him. What are you doing with Garendo? JT? This is one where you might want to watch the warm-ups. I don't know. There could be.
I don't. But like you said with San Francisco, I don't know if there's going to be anything in the warm-ups either. I mean, I'm sure he's going to have Taylor out there. They may put Debo in the backfield in warm-ups, right? Just to be like, hey, who knows what we're doing? And then you come out. So Garendo is a spot where I think if the injury didn't happen, he'd be one of the guys looking at who's available and who might produce that I would just bump way up so that I get into 60, 65% of lineups, right? But now, given that it's a short week, you have this news. I'm not sure exactly what I don't think the answer is Patrick Taylor 100%. Patrick Taylor also is 7,400 here. So it's not like you've got a situation where you have a backup that's priced as a backup. They priced all of the guys who may play in the backfield for San Francisco up, except for Debo Samuel. Debo is 7,600. Yeah. So I may just increase my Kittle and Debo exposure.
That's what I'm doing.
And back down. Not have none, but I'm not too sure exactly what they're going to do here. And I think, given that Garendo's active, I don't know if we'll see a situation where Taylor gets enough work to be anywhere near the optimal.
I think I like the receivers just in this game in general. Kittle, Kupp,
and Purdy, right? Purdy.
Yeah, Stafford's fine too. But I do think these are quarterbacks that you can play, right? Like you could see Kupp and Puka both outscore Stafford, and and then you've got Kittle or Debo on the other side. You start to run out of salary. So I do think it's viable to go away from the quarterbacks because they're not the running quarterbacks, right? Sometimes these guys, if they don't get the touchdowns exactly.
And none of these, like you look at, when I was looking at props, there's not, you mentioned Colby Parkinson, but even, Kyle Juszczyk is 2K, right? I mean, Juszczyk's a guy where if Garendo was hurt, he'll get those rushes around the goal line, maybe get a couple of passes. So it's not easy there. Blake Corum, who's getting at least full series, but he's 3,200.
He could score a touchdown, but would that even be enough is the thing.
Not at 3,200. It's not like he's 1,200, right? So you look at a guy like Colby.
That's why I like Parkinson. He's the cheapest one.
Yeah. I still may leave Juszczyk in the pool just because they will, get him involved. And at 2K, I don't know. I don't love it.
I'm building a lineup right now as we're talking, and it's hard to fit. You can't fit everybody, basically.
Yeah. And the kickers are priced up too. The kickers are, Moody's 5,200, Cardi's 5K. Cardi's had one game this season that would be relevant for a one-game slate.
I'm trying not to play the kickers on the
game. Moody really has, and I don't really want. I'm going to limit the.
I don't want Pearsall.
No.
So it's just.
Yeah, but even he's 4,800.
What about a defense?
I don't think so, man. I don't know. I mean, San Francisco's defense looked pretty good against the Bears, but not great.
Yeah.
So, neither of these defenses are enticing. So it's
I haven't honestly had my, obviously once we're off the show would be NFL time, but it does seem like a slate. If there is a $200 player who can get a single solitary fantasy point, it could potentially be on the winner.
I don't know that, but the way they price these, I do think Colby Parkinson is the
cheapest guy.
I mean, Davis Allen, if he's active, is 1-2. Okay, so he's 1,200. Like I said, with the backup running backs, even Keyshawn Vaughn is 3,400 for San Francisco. So it's not like any of these guys are, going to give you Davis Allen actives to Steven Crichton. So, but he's not getting snaps either. So, maybe he gets involved around the goal line on a play, but I think that's unlikely to happen. So, Tutu Atwell is 2,600. Demarcus Robinson is 4,400. It's not great. It's not great.
Yeah, he's probably a pretty good play.
Demarcus Robinson, yeah. So, all right. That'll be it for us. We're going to make some lineups. Cores are mostly up. Cores will be fully up here within the next 20 minutes, certainly before 10 minutes before lock. Yeah, Robinson's active. We expected that. And then for Showdown, those cores are up. 3 maxes are up. Guys will be on both Discords, the NBA and the NFL Discord. As always, good luck in your contests. For DC, for myself, definitely not for Luigi, who's on the run. Good luck in your contests tonight.